Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's session. We're going to explore Ultra-based navigation and some tools that you can use in order to communicate with your students. My name is Fausto Pupo. I'm a senior educational consultant at Anthology, and well, I am more than happy to be working with you today. If you have any questions during the session, please, you can either raise your hand and then unmute your microphone to ask your questions, or if you prefer, you can use the chat as well. Okay, I'll try to keep an eye on it so that I do not miss any questions. Okay, so there are a number of ways. I'm going to turn off my camera now. I just wanted to say hi. So there are a few tools that you can use in order to communicate with your students and also to have your students interact with you and with their peers. And some of them, okay, actually reside outside of the course itself. Let's close this one for a moment and let me show you a couple of tools that you can use. One of them is the institution page. Okay, this is handled by the admin. However, you do want to visit it from time to time, and you probably want to encourage your students to do the same, because through this page, your institution may share information and resources that are useful and that are customized to the actual user. So there could be materials or resources or information that are specific to faculty in general, or faculty from a specific program, or students from a program, etc. So this is a useful page to visit. Another way in which students can get very important information is the activity stream. Now, this one, which you can see here on the left, is very useful because each user can tailor and configure what they get notified about. So here you can get notifications about upcoming events and due dates. Also, whatever is happening today, as you can see here, and also recent due dates and events. Each user decides what they want to be notified about. In order to configure that, all you need to do, and your students have the same ability, is go to the settings menu. In Ultra, every time you want to access or any available settings, all you need to do is click on the little gear icon. It'll show you what configuration options are available for that specific element. In this case, the activity stream. And as you can see here, there are three ways in which a user can receive notifications from Blackboard. One of them is through the stream notifications itself. And here, depending on your role, you may see some or all of these options. Student alerts are intended for faculty. So, and there are 5 different types, and you can turn them on or off as you wish. For example, under student alerts, you have if activity data is available, you can identify those who are participating and also those who may need help because they are falling behind maybe. If grade data is available, you can compare grades levels. There's usually a direct correlation between students being active in your course and their performance when it comes to grades. Low overall grade notifications, missed due dates alerts, and last access alerts. Okay. Then you have discussions activity. Activity on your responses, any replies that have been posted, activity on responses that I have replied to, responses from instructors only, responses from follow-up discussions, because as we will see a bit later on today, you can also follow a discussion, so you get notifications that are specific to it, and then replies for followed discussions. You can turn each one on or off. By default, they will all be on. For students, okay, they get this one here also. My grades and activity. It includes no recent activity notifications, grade low or at risk. By the way, it is instructor, okay, in each course that determines what the trigger or the threshold is for these notifications. Grade dropped, low course activity, and grade increased. You also have notifications for new calendar events, for journal activity as well. It includes journal entry posted, journal entry edited, and journal comment posted. Finally, you get wiki activity, and wikis are currently not available in Ultra. Okay, they are still available in Learn Original. However, there are plans to replace wikis with more robust collaborative uh, work tool within Ultra. All right. Then you have email notifications. Normally, you would get one email a day, normally towards the end of a day. And the options are new gradable items, new grades and feedback, new messages, new discussion messages, new content added to the course, new and upcoming due dates, past due items, and new courses available. You could also set this to get an email right away whenever any of the elements here has been selected. However, if there's a lot going on or you're teaching or taking several courses, that could be a bit overwhelming maybe. So email me once a day is the recommended option. Also, if your students are using the app, they can configure the push notifications that they get through the app. Here you have for new content and discussions, new discussion responses, new grades and feedback, new and upcoming due dates. And one thing I like about this one is that students can edit reminders. So how much time in advance should they be notified? Here I have it at 4 days, but of course you can change this to whatever the user is comfortable with. Remember, this is configured by each individual student. Just don't forget to save any changes that you make. Let's now go. Oh, by the way, also from the Ultra-based navigation menu, you get notifications if there are new grades, if there are new calendar events, or if there are new unread messages. And as you can see here, I have 27 new messages that, okay, require my attention. All you need to do is go to the Global Messages tool, and from here, you will see the status of each one of the courses in which you are enrolled. Let's now take a look at the tools within an Ultra course. How do you get in touch with your students? Well, one way is through the calendar. You can use a calendar, okay, for due dates and events. Also, okay, before I move on, you don't need to worry about due dates because when you create an assignment, a test, a learning journal, or any other element that has a due date to it, it will be automatically included in the calendar. So you have the day view, you have the month view, which personally I prefer because I am a highly visual individual. Usually it loads right away, but okay, there you go. And you have a due dates option, okay? Also, you as an instructor have the ability to add events, course schedules, and even office hours, should you offer those to your students. And as always in Ultra, when you want to create something new, all you need to do is look for the plus sign, usually found inside the circle. From here, you could add an event, edit the course schedule if you're going to be meeting with your students regularly, whether it's face-to-face, online, through Zoom or some other tool, or a combination of both if you have a hybrid model. And then you could also add office hours. And the interface is very similar to any calendar app, as you can see here. When you add a course schedule, in this case, I already have one. If you want to edit something or see what options are available, remember you want to click on the ellipsis, the three dots, and then an edit. So it's got a nickname, starting date and time, frequency. In this case, it's weekly, every week, but you have a few options, as you can see here. If it were, this is once a week, but if it were to happen more than once a week, you can select additional days. When it should end, it could be on a specific date or after a number of iterations, and also the location. In this case, it's a physical classroom, but it could also be a URL or both, okay, if students have that choice. And that course schedule will appear on the course content page right beneath the details and actions menu. As you can see, course schedule, weekly face-to-face workshop, Tuesdays from 2 to 4 p.m., and the location is classroom 201. Now, inside the course, you have, okay, a choice of announcements and messages. And they serve different purposes. If you click on announcements, as you can see, I have quite a few here. You get to see a little summary. Here, one has been posted, none have been scheduled, and 15 have been saved as drafts. This is because I copied those announcements from a Learn original course. Okay, you can copy course content, assessment instruments, all kinds of activities, rubrics, tests, question banks, grade schemas, and even announcements. Okay, this is a spoiler alert because on the next session, when we focus on creating course content, we're going to explore that, okay, with a little more depth. If you want to create a new announcement, all you need to do, as always in Ultra, is look for the plus sign. Now you give it a title. And here you have a choice. You could type in your message. Excuse me a second. My window is open and it's kind of noisy outside. Okay, let's close it. Thank you. It's Murphy's Law. My neighborhood is extremely quiet, except when I am in the middle of a meeting. Then someone decides to mow their lawn right outside or something. Okay. So as I was saying, you can introduce your sample announcement. And you also have the ability to record it as a video. Okay. So you can select your camera, for instance. Hello again. Okay, so here you can see my stereo, a painting by my mom, and Gumby over here. All right. Oh, and I have a red pepper here. It's very hot. By the way, I am from Peru, and this is called rocoto, and it's extremely hot. Okay. So then all you need to do is start recording. The interface may look a little different, but it should be available. And then, okay, after the 3 seconds countdown that you saw, you can start recording your announcement. You have up to 5 minutes. You can pause at any time and then continue. And then you can end the recording when you're ready. Closed captions will be generated automatically. Okay, and then you can post it to your students. You can retake the recording as well. That's a funny face. Okay, now you have a few options. You can post it right away. You can schedule the announcement, in which case you decide when and what time it should become visible, and if necessary, when it should be automatically hidden. If you're announcing something that is due or is happening next week on Wednesday, then there's no point in the announcement being visible after that. Whatever you do, you probably want to send an email copy to your students, which will include not just a text saying that there is a new announcement, but also the actual content of the announcement. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to post it right away. Should be visible in a moment. Okay, this has been updated. And one thing that you may want to take into account, it usually takes a little while for the announcement to become visible, like 1 or 2 minutes. Let's refresh to see if it's ready. If not, it'll pop up in a moment. It will become visible. It'll pop up the next time the user, I already got the email. It will pop up the next time the user accesses your course. Now, here it's still being processed. Let's see. If not, we'll try again in a few seconds. Now, you want to try not to overuse announcements because they will appear as a pop-up. And then students cannot click on anything in the course until they have either clicked on the announcement to see the whole thing or click on a link to the announcements page or close the pop-up altogether. So I would normally use the announcements only for things that are actually critical to the course. It's not here yet, but it will be. So I will exit the student preview mode here. Okay, and it will become visible. There it is. So as you can see, I cannot click on anything until I click on the actual announcement to see the full content, go to the announcements page to see all of them, or dismiss it. So if you do it too often, then students, especially if they're in a hurry to do something, they may close it. Okay, so use them for when it's really something that's extremely important. For everything else, you can use messages. You click on New Message. You can select all course members or all instructors if you're co-teaching, or all students or specific individuals. I want to send a message to Nina Hagen and to Paul McCartney. And you probably want to send an email copy because in this way you don't have to wait until students access your course again. Okay, they're actually likely to have their email account synchronized on their cell phone. So that adds an additional way in which they can become aware of the fact that you're trying to communicate something to them. And then again, you type the contents. After which, oh, by the way, normally students will be able to reply to this message. But if that's not the idea, if you're just announcing or reminding them of something, you can uncheck this box if you wish. And then you send it, and okay, your message will appear on this page. If you have many messages, you can always delete those that are no longer relevant as well. Now, there are two tools within your course that you can use for student interaction and communication. Let's create those right here in Module 2. This is a course on ancient Egyptian history. So let's open the learning module. Oops. I wonder what happened there. Okay. Just a moment. Might have gotten stuck in student preview mode. Now, when you access student preview mode, which is highly recommended because in that way you can Not just see, but also experience your course as students would. And thus, you can make sure that everything is working as intended. Once you finish going over your course as a student, you may want to discard all the data that has been generated by your preview student. In that way, you don't have to worry about analytics, okay, course analytics being biased in any ways. So I'll go ahead and discard it. Okay. So let's say you want to create a, um, let's say you want to create a discussion. All you need to do is click on the module, then click on the plus sign in the position where you want the new item to be. Select the first option, create with a plus sign. And from here, first you have course content items, which we're going to focus on our next session. Then you have assessment instruments. We're also going to take a look at those, okay, in an upcoming session. But this is the one we want to focus on, discussions and journals. So let's create a discussion. You give it a title and, okay, the instructions right here. So in order to have something that looks more realistic, I'm going to use the AI Design Assistant to generate one automatically. However, you can, of course, create it manually if you want. I'm not going to focus too much on the AI Design Assistant because we can do that on a different session, but it's just to save time because I do want to focus on the options and settings for a discussion. Okay, understanding personal biases in decision making. Let's use this one here. Uh, you can add, you can attach files, add links, insert images, and as always, if you click on plus, you see what else you can add. Like if you're teaching a math course or related subject, you can access a math formula editor, embed media such as videos, uh, external resources that have been integrated by your system admin from the content market, etc. Once you're ready, just save it and let us take a look at the available settings. Let's click on the little gear. Display on course content page. Okay, let's focus on that one first, okay? Right now, this is hidden from students. You can make it visible or establish release conditions once you're done with this. But right now, what I want to show you is the following. As you can see, this discussion will be available in its intended context, which is Module 2. But at the same time, it will be available and accessible through the discussions page. This is rather practical because when there are new posts or replies, you will see a number here. Okay, that is a number of new posts. So if you want to take a quick look at all of the discussions and see whether there's something new going on in any of them, the ideal place to have that panoramic view is the discussions page. However, in order for students to access discussions, ideally they should do it from within a learning module. Okay, like here. So when you go to settings, display on course content page means that it will be accessible and visible both through the discussions page and from the course content area. If you uncheck this box, then it will only be visible on the discussions page, but not on your course content area. My recommendation is to leave it accessible from both places, but then it is ultimately up to you. Some people prefer to have discussions accessible or all discussions together from the discussions page. And there and we'll go back to the discussions page in a moment. You can even create folders to further or better organize your discussions. You could have graded discussions in one grouped together in one folder, and then ungraded discussions like an icebreaker, something like that, okay, in a different folder. I'll show you how that works in a moment. So, what settings are available here? Post first. Personally, I like this one because it will hide all discussion activity from students until they have written their first post. So in this way, they will not be able to simply look at what other people have written and maybe use that for an initial idea by paraphrasing or summarizing, etc. Okay, they can do that later as a reply to a classmate based on the instructions that you have provided. But once they have written their first post, then they will be able to see what other people in the class have written. Okay, so that is one that I like. Another option is to prevent students from editing their posts or deleting their posts once they have published them. Normally, I give them that flexibility. They may change their mind, they might find a typo, they might find a better resource, etc. But if you want to prevent them from doing that, all you need to do is click this checkbox here. And then whatever they have written, it's like it was written in stone. But you, as instructor, can always edit or delete stuff. Now, if someone writes something that shouldn't be there, for example. Allow anonymous responses and replies. If it's not going to be graded and you just want to get feedback from students, you can always use a form. A form is basically a survey. However, you can also allow anonymous responses and replies. Additional tools align with goals if your institution is using them, which I know you are, and group discussions. Okay, so you can, if you have a large class, then you can assign the discussion to smaller groups. Let's say you have 24 students and you want to maximize the chances of students engaging in back and forth communication through replies to posts. Then probably you want to create 8 student groups, okay, so that they have fewer people to interact with. If you want to align something with goals, all you need to do is click here, align with goals. Look for the specific goal set, okay, for your program. Let's use this one. We have here program goals. PLO. PLO here stands for Program Learning Objectives. And then you can, of course, select all that apply. Nevertheless, when it comes to aligning goals, especially if this is a graded discussion or for an assignment or for a test, I prefer not to align with goals at the highest level. It means if I'm creating an assignment, I would not align goals to the whole assignment, but I would use a rubric and make the alignments at the specific criterion level because you're likely to be measuring different learning objectives there with different rubric criteria, or if it were a test, you are likely to be including questions that address specific objectives or goals. So when we have the session on grading, I will demo that. So here, if it's a discussion, I might do the alignment with the discussion at the discussion level. But if this were a more rigorous graded discussion, and I'm going to be using rubric, which I will in a moment, then I would probably rather do the alignment at that level. So you can do it. You can align with content like an Ultra document or with a test or an assignment or a discussion or even a goal. But okay, you can probably get much more accurate uh, measures, okay, when you use a rubric and you align with a criteria, or if it's a test, when you align to specific questions. So I'm going to cancel this one right now. Okay. So these are the basic options. Now, let me copy this because I'm going to be using it in a moment. This is an ungraded discussion. If you want to make it gradable, because in my opinion, it is a discussion is actually a good way in which you can measure students' mastery or progress. Then all you need to do is click on Grade Discussion. And as you can see, you have a few additional options now, including the ability to use a grading rubric. So now you can enter a due date. Let's say they have until Friday, October the 17th, by the end of the day. The grade category is discussion, but of course you could use any other grade category that applies. Well, maybe not one of these, but from the settings menu of the gradebook, you can create custom grade categories. How you want to grade them using points or any other grading schema that's available in your course, and what's the maximum number of points. So now I can use a grading rubric. Let's generate one real quick using the AI Design Assistant. Here I'm in the prompt box. Okay, I'm just pasting the instructions. I would do the same for an assignment. I can adjust the level of complexity. Number of columns could be up to 5. The number of rows could be up to 7. For advanced options, you can choose the output language. So if you're teaching a foreign language class, maybe, then that could be very useful. And then I'm just going to generate it. Let's give it a moment. This is auto-generated, and of course it needs to be checked for accuracy and bias. However, it always does a rather good job at generating rubrics, which can save you hours of work. Depth of reflection, analysis of decision making, identification of biases, use of visual aids, engagement with peers, clarity and organization, future strategies planning. And as you can see, even the descriptions are easy to tell apart from, okay, each level is easy to tell apart from the others. So analysis of decision-making process, exemplary would be the analysis is comprehensive and clearly connects personal biases to the decision-making process, demonstrating critical thinking. Versus proficient, 75%, the analysis adequately connects personal biases to the decision-making process, showing a solid understanding of concepts, and so forth. You can edit anything you want in the next step. Here, all you need to do is click on the little pencil icon to be able to change anything you want. You want to give it a title. And this is what I meant when I said that if you want to align specific criteria with specific goals, because you may be different aspects of students' participation here, maybe measuring different goals. For each criterion, you have the ability to align with the goal. Oh, first you need to save it, sorry. And now I can align with goals. Okay. So here I have this, for example. You see the different programs that you will have access to. Let's say this one aligns with these two. And now this one, this other criterion, aligns with, let's say, this one. And perhaps certain criteria, okay, are not aligned with any goal in particular. So this is a lot more accurate. It gives you a much more accurate representation of students' progress towards goals than aligning the whole discussion, okay, with one or more goals. Same thing applies to anything that uses a rubric, and if it's a test, you can do this with individual questions, as we will see in a different session. Once you're done, just close this. Okay, we have made no changes except for the alignments. I mean, you save when you change anything, okay, in the descriptions, the titles, when you add levels, you can also add additional criteria, okay? And now let's look for the sample discussion rubric. Don't forget the last step. You want to click on Add. And now they have been linked. Here I have just 3 sample students, but if you had a large class and assign to groups, okay, and then, okay, create the custom rules. I don't have enough students here to randomly generate groups. Okay, at least I need at least 4, but I could choose that option as well, or for self-enrollment. I like self-enrollment, particularly when each group is intended to maybe focus on a different topic or on a different aspect of the same topic. Because in that way, you can let students decide which specific topic or aspect of a topic they want to focus on. So once you're done with the settings, oh, there is one more that I like a lot, and I skipped it. So once you have a due date, and I always turn this on, you can stop discussion activity after due date. So after 11:59 p.m. on October the 17th, no one will be able to write any new posts or any new replies to posts, which makes a lot of sense because, I mean, if you don't do this and someone realizes that they did not participate as instructed or expected, they might hurry and write a post or a bunch of replies that no one is going to be reading. And the whole point in a discussion is for students to engage in communication. So I think this one here is quite useful. And then don't forget to save. Now it's ready to be made available to students, visible, or you could edit release conditions again. And if you want to follow a specific discussion so you can get notifications, all you need to do is click on, okay, the bell icon. The other tool that can be used, this is for, here you have a message indicating that you're actually following this discussion. The other tool that you can use for communicating with students here, it could be instructor-student communication or interaction, or student-to-student interaction or communication. However, if you want the student to focus more on reflecting on a topic or on their progress, or a combination of both, you can use a journal. It looks quite similar to a discussion, I mean, in the structure. However, let's generate one real quick. Here it is intended, I mean, the student is intended to reflect and then get feedback from the instructor. Again, you can edit anything you want. You can add files, insert images, attach files, etc. And when you're done, you can access the settings. By default, journals are not graded. Okay, they're usually intended to be formative. However, you can make them gradable, which will give you a few additional options. If you click on Grade Journal, you get all these additional options. Among the standard options for ungraded journals, you can decide whether you want to allow users to edit and delete entries. I don't see why not. And allow users to edit and delete comments. Okay, as well, because if you write a comment or give them feedback, then they can reply back. I would normally leave these two. And even if they're formative, I still usually make them gradable because that gives me some additional options, like establishing a due date and time, a, add a rubric, which is usually helpful because especially a lot of people are not used to engaging in an active reflection process. So this could be, okay, a very useful guide. It doesn't have to be very complex. You could have two columns, which makes it more into a checklist, if you will. So, okay, these are the things that you may want to cover or include or make sure you deal with. Okay, and then you can edit anything you want, and this becomes more of a checklist that will help students have a clearer idea of what is expected of them. Let me give it a name that I can easily recognize. I can edit anything I want. I can align specific criteria with goals, of course. And then let us not forget the last step and add it. Save, and you're good to go. Okay, you can make it visible if you want. And even though it's going to be graded, that grade does not necessarily have to be included in the overall grade calculation. Do you want to learn how? Don't miss a gradebook session. So here you have actual instructions, the settings, and okay, you get an additional tab for a summary and then an overview of student participation. There is another way in which you can communicate with students, especially it is a tool through which students can communicate with you. And it is not under participation and engagement, it's actually under assessment. And that is a form. A form works more like sample form, like a survey. So you can get feedback from your students. You can get comments from your students about their overall experience in your course, about questions they may have, etc. Okay? About their opinions or preferences, you name it. Here, if you click on plus, you get these 4 different question types. Essay questions, open-ended, they can freely write. Likert questions, these are specific to surveys normally. Oh, you don't need a question title. That one is optional. You do need the question text. And then you want to define the scale. Anything that is mandatory or compulsory will have this red asterisk there. So let's say 5, which is a rather standard number of options or range. And this would be like strongly disagree. And the other extreme, number 5, strongly agree. You can add a not applicable option and save. This option here is available for tests as well. You allow students to add content at the end of a form. So if you don't have an open-ended question, or if your open-ended questions are very specific, and you want students to have the ability or the means to freely communicate with you at the end, okay, you may want to leave this on. You can, of course, also add text or instructions. Okay, you can add all kinds of resources and artifacts here. If your form or survey has different sections, then you can add a page break. My recommendation, however, is try not to include too many questions on a form or on a survey, because, just think of yourself when you get a survey, let's say from a business that you purchased something from, etc. So sometimes we say, oh, okay, I'll take the survey. But then it drags on and on and on, and there are many sections and many questions, and maybe you're in a hurry or you just don't have the time. Well, same thing could happen to your students, so keep it concise and to the point. That would be my recommendation. Under settings, remember you access by clicking on the little gear icon. You can indicate a due date and time. You could prohibit late submissions also. You could, under presentation options, display one question at a time. Personally, I do that because it probably helps students focus more on individual questions. Well, here I just have 2 items, the text and then question 1, but in a real case scenario, you're likely to have a few more. I would not prohibit backtracking normally because, this is just a form. I want students to be able to go back maybe if they change their mind or something. If I had multiple choice questions, I could randomize the options. However, that is more likely to be useful for tests, randomized answers. I don't have any page breaks, so I cannot randomize pages here. Normally, okay, I would indicate that this is formative, which means it will have no impact on the student's grade. You could make it gradable. However, from the very nature of questions of this type, you probably won't be doing that. You could allow multiple attempts, but usually if it comes to opinion, one attempt should be enough. And this one option here is likely to make students more willing to openly participate, to enable anonymous submissions. Now you always get the option of providing a description for just about everything and anything in your course, and this is a very good practice. Oh, sorry. Adding or providing a description for everything in your course will probably make it a lot easier for people to find their way around, okay, in your course, and they will know what the different things test or link to or contain or deal with, etc., simply by looking at the description without having to first click on them. So it makes navigating your course a lot user-friendlier. It's a good habit. On the next session, we're going to focus directly on that. Once you're ready, you may want to make it visible or, okay, use the release conditions. Now, normally things are available to all members, but you could target specific individuals or groups. Here, I'm going to use date and time. So access from this coming Monday at 11:50 a.m. You can change this if you want, of course. All right, and save it. When you link something or make something available based on performance, okay, it's usually for it's usually because you want to make sure they meet certain conditions before they can access. That's ideal for gamification. We'll talk more about that when we deal with assessing students' learning. But here, since this is just a survey, probably date and time is more than enough. Let's change the time, 6 a.m. maybe. And don't forget to save. Now, when you make something available through release conditions, you have two options. With one option, students can see the item, but will not be able to access until all the rules have been met, okay, or complied with, and they will know what the rules are, what the requirements are, or it could remain hidden until it should be visible. And you could also add multiple rules, but more on that in an upcoming session once we have a few gradable items that we can actually use. So, okay, release conditions have been set, and I can close this. And okay, if students want to access, they will simply need to hover over the release conditions and they will see what has to happen in order for them to be able to access. And well, that is basically how you can communicate and interact with your students in an Ultra course. Now we have some time for questions or comments. So I'll be more than happy to answer your questions or listen to your comments. What do you think? Does it seem easy to use and communicate with your students using Ultra?
It looks easy when you do it.
It'll look easy when you and feel easy when you do it as well. Don't worry about that. It's very
Thank you.
user-friendly.
Yes. No, I was joking. I think the way you've explained it and going through the examples, shows how intuitive it is, as you mentioned.
Yes, it is so. I mean, I do this with multiple universities, mainly from the United States. I've been doing that for the past few years, actually, and um, pretty much every time people end up getting used to Ultra and adopting and feeling comfortable using Ultra real quickly. Okay. Which feature would replace the home page in original version, which isn't very flexible? Oh, okay. So basically, what I would use is a module called, in this case, it's called Get Started Here. Could be course home. And as you can see here, I include an introduction to the course, core contact information, course description, etc. And if there are any notifications or new items that students should be aware of, the Ultra course menu, if there are new announcements, they will find a number here in purple indicating how many new announcements there are. New discussion posts, you will see how many. New gradebook items, okay, you will also see how many, or new messages. So all the information is very visual. And if it's not showing things that, okay, it's not showing modules that may contain items that have no content, here you can easily tell if something needs your attention because you will actually see a purple number inside the circle next to it. And then to provide, before you focus on the actual course content, I would recommend using a course home or get started here module like this. That was as a reply to Rob's question on the chat. Sure, my pleasure.
I have a question regarding the journal entry. Uh, the way I've done it in the past is I give an assignment through journal, and the student responds to the assignment. Then I respond to the student with questions, and I
Mm-hmm.
give them a time frame to get back to me with answers to those questions. Will I still be able to do that?
Yes, what I would do, okay, let's do something here. I don't know what that is. So, okay, let's put this journal, okay, in module one. As you can see, it's very easy to move things around. It's just drag and drop. So let's say I expect them to write an entry every week. I will be replying to them. And then the following week, based on what they have learned since then and my feedback, I expect them to write a new entry. Okay, like explore here you have the journal, exploring your personal style. So then for the following week, module two, all I would need to do is click on plus and then create. This is a spoiler alert here because this is from tomorrow, from the next session. But anyways, I think it's uh, a very good question. So I would link. And when you click on link, you have two options. You have external links and course links. So I will look for that journal, this one here. Now I can customize or change the display name and even instructions or descriptions. And now you can tell it's a link because you have this item here. So you can, it's very easy for them. They don't have to go back to where you put or created the journal in the first place. If they are supposed to write a new entry for each module, then you can link to that. And okay, in the instructions, you can specify how much time they have and so forth.
So I could tell them that they have 48 hours to respond to my questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You can also introduce a due date and time, remember. So, and after that, let's do that. So here, exploring your personal learning style, if you go to the due date, okay, you indicate the due date, which will also be visible in the calendar. Okay, so that they have that option as well. All right. Any other questions?
So I don't know if this is going to be addressed maybe or a better question for another session or not, but I'm just thinking about student and we talk this is a lot about sort of instructor to student communication, but in terms of student to student engagement or interaction, other than the discussion board, are there other kind of features that you would recommend for that or other options?
Oh, yes, certainly. There is one that is available for not just for assignments and tests, but also for course content. This is an Ultra document. So all you need to do is click on the gear icon, and now you can enable or allow class conversations. A class conversation,
Huh.
it looks and works as a discussion, but is linked directly to that item. So I would normally use them for assignments because students are likely to want to share resources or ask for additional feedback or instructions or may have questions to you and you can answer the question and everybody will have access to that answer. So it's very practical. I would normally use them for course content in the form of Ultra documents and for assignments. I mean, they're available for tests, but I really would not want my students to collaborate too much around tests, but they're there if it's a formative. So thanks for asking. I was going to
Thanks.
mention those for assessments, but yeah, they apply to course content, pretty much everything within your course.
Thanks.
Sure, you're welcome. So now if you access that, you will see, and students also will see this icon. And when they click on it, okay, it looks and works like a discussion forum, but now it is linked directly to that. Also, when you create groups and you make a discussion or an assignment, as a group discussion or a group assignment, they will have the ability to communicate, have a private discussion, okay, for their peers there. So that is also available. If there is a new post or a new comment or a question or any new item in the class conversation, you will see a purple dot here indicating that there's something new going on. All right. I know we're